follow the following pattern. If I predecease my wife and she's still alive, everything goes to her. If my wife predeceases me, everything goes to me. When the last of the two of us die, it's distributed to our children in the following manner. That's mostly equally, but sometimes not. So that violates where you can't leave to your wife. It violates where the oldest child gets a double portion. And it also violates that daughters don't inherit. So what people do, because if you do nothing, the will you have, a Beis Din would accept it and enforce it as a declaration of your intent prior to death. So it'd be like a Shchiv Meira. However, you don't want to die and have an Aveira as the very last thing you do by dying. So what most religious people do is they create a legal document. There are various forms of this document, but basically what it does, mine, I create Tanoim, and you have to put in Reuven and God because it has to be the two-way. The wording has to be right. So you need a Jewish lawyer who knows this stuff. But basically, let's say you have $10 million, Baruch Hashem, and you want your wife to get 5, and you want each of your kids, you have 5 kids, you want each of your kids to get $1 million, including the girls. So what you do is you set up, and you do a mirror of this for your wife. You set up a debt. Remember, the individual we're talking about has 10 million. I hereby declare that based on previous financial arrangements, I owe my wife $25 million. I owe each of my children $25 million each. And on my demise, they have a choice. They can either sue my estate and see what the Beis Din gives them, if anything, or they can voluntarily accept one, in the case of my wife, or 1/2, in the case of each of my children, 1/5, I had 5 kids, of the remaining half as satisfaction of the debt, and I owe them nothing. So now, when your civil will kicks in, and the kid each gets his $1 million, and he doesn't sue you in Beis Din, and you've accommodated the halacha, because what you do is you leave over $10, $11, $12, and in other words, you write this all out in that document that you're leaving over $12. Your oldest son gets 2. And each of the remaining 5 get $1 each, or however the math works. So in other words, you leave a small amount of money that's done for halacha, and the rest is paid out in partial satisfaction of the debts. So that's halachically permissible. If anybody goes to a lawyer and he doesn't know how to do it, I'll be glad to give you a Xerox of my will. All right. So now we'll go on with the Mishnah, because this is very important. We're old. Yeah.
The other way I heard it, you give it away 10 minutes.
That's the other option. But that's a problem. Here's why that's a problem. We cannot give away something you don't have. So if you write your will on January 1st and you have $10 million, you can indeed give that $10 million away. But if a stock you have goes up, or you bought a building on February 1st, then you have to constantly revise that document so that it's always dated just before you die. Otherwise, any financial transactions between the date on that document and your death are not covered by that document. And you can do what you want. I just made the same. The best way to do it is the chovos, because that doesn't matter what your estate did. The minute you die, your wife is owed $25 million, which you do not have. So she has a choice of getting nothing or settling for what the will says. Okay. So now we'll do the Mishnah.
Plus, you get a mitzvah for doing that.
Plus, you get a mitzvah for doing that now, and another mitzvah when you die for not dying with an improper inheritance procedure. So it's a win-win. It just costs a couple of bucks, so you don't go out to dinner tonight, which you can't do anyway, and you do this with the lawyer.
So much work, but they already got it.
What?
They already got it.
Okay. Yesh noichalim umanchilim. There are people who inherit from another individual. This is all when automatically by the Torah. And also if they predecease that person, bequeath to them. Okay? That's category 1. Yesh neichalin v'lo manchilin. There are those who inherit from another individual, but do not bequeath to that individual. For example, a husband and wife. The husband inherits from his wife any of her property, but he does not bequeath to her if he predeceases her. Okay? Then the next category, lo noichalin. Did I leave one out?
Yes.
Okay, wait. Yesh, okay. No, I didn't. There are manchilin velo nechailin. There are individuals to whom the Torah would give your possessions when you die, but Torah would not give you their possessions if they predecease you. And then the fourth category is lo nochalin velo manchilin. There are relatives that you neither bequeath to nor inherit from, except the other way around. Don't inherit. Okay. Inherit from or bequeath to. Now, that's the end of the general statement. Now we're going to go into specifics. Ilu noichalin umanchilin. These are people the relationship is such that you do inherit from them or bequeath to them. And it's critical to remember that it says inherit from first. Okay? Ha'av es habanim, a father and his male children. Habanim es ha'av, sons and their father. Ha'achin min ha'av, male siblings with the same father. Nochalin umanchilin, all of these, depending on the circumstances of the family, who's alive and who isn't, can inherit and can bequeath. Now, ha'ish es imo, a male and his mother. V'ha'ish es ishto, a man and his wife. B'nei achiyos, the sons of sisters, in other words, cousins. Noichlin v'yein manchilin. These people can, if they're the closest living relative, can inherit. But if they predecease that person does not inherit from them. They cannot bequeath. Who give some examples of that? Ha'isha es baneha, a woman and her son. She cannot inherit from her son. Ha'isha es baila, a woman cannot inherit money from her husband. She can only bequeath to him. Achi ha'em, the brothers of the mother, that's a maternal uncle. Manchilin velo nochalin, they can bequeath to a living other person, but they cannot inherit from that other person if he predeceases. Ha'achin min ha'em, brothers from a mother. Mrs. Schwartz used to be Mrs. Abramowitz. She has one son, Yitzi Abramowitz, another son, Yitzi Schwartz. Shmuley Schwartz. Okay, so they're brothers from a common mother, but different fathers. Lo noichalin velo manchilin, from a Torah perspective, vis-a-vis inheritances, they're not related. They do not inherit because their link is the mother and she's female. Okay? Now, I asked you to remember carefully that it says you do not inherit from and you do not bequeath to in that order. So when it discusses a father and a son, it says the father does not inherit from his son, does inherit from his son and can bequeath to his son. So the Gemara is troubled by that sequence because the death of a child is a tragedy. So the Gemara starts out, my shana de katani ha'av esbanim beresha. Why does the very first thing, and giving the examples, why is the very first thing the Mishnah does is say a father inherits from his dead son. Okay, lisnei habanim es ha'av beresha. Let it. Why doesn't it start with the more normal and less tragic sequence of boys inherit from their father? That's the Gemara's question. And now it spells, since if we're not bright enough to figure it out on our own, it spells it out. Chada, first of all, in general, we don't start out by expressing something that's a punishment or a tragedy or a calamity, whatever word you want to use there. The Art Scroll uses calamity. When a young man dies and he's childless and he's accrued an estate, his father inherits it. That's a horrible thing. Why didn't it say the father dies after ripe old age and the son inherits that? So the first thing Gemara says, we try to avoid starting a topic with bad news for the Jews. And turn the page. V'od. Furthermore, there is a pasuk that says, Ish ki yamos ubein ein lo. When a man dies and he has no son. Okay? So, and there the sequence is the older person dies and in the theoretical son, unfortunately, isn't there. But it goes father to son. That's the way the arrow points. So why does the Mishnah start out with the arrow pointing the wrong direction? That's the question. So, Visanya, the reason that the Tana gave the idea of the fathering inheriting, he does it that way because he makes a drasha. And we've seen in other places that the rabbis are particularly fond of the drushes because they made them up. And everybody's happy with his own chiddush. So the Gemara explains to us, I did the asile b'drasha because it came from a drasha, chavivale. And the rabbi who wrote this, the Tana who wrote this Mishnah, loved his own drasha and therefore put that first. My drasha, what was his drasha? Okay, the Sanya, we have a brisa that spells out what his drasha was. She'ero, the closest relative, zeha'av, the closest relative to a young man who dies without a family is his father. Okay, Malamed sheha'av kaidim la'achin. Now, it is possible that this dead, unfortunately, young man has surviving brothers as well as a surviving father. So why does we say that the father gets the gelt? Okay. Yachal, I might have said, Yihi kaidem leben, that the father should come first, even over another living brother. I might, okay, Talmud Leimer, the pasuk says, Akara, the closest relative, which might be, well, we'll see. Karav Kaidem. So if you're working out who gets the money when someone dies, you figure out the closest blood relationship, excluding females, and that's where the money goes. Okay? So since children are more important to a man than his own brother, or even, I mean, in other words, his own parents, even though we have a mitzvah of honoring our parents, you're involved with your children. That's more important. That's more immediately important than with your parents. We all have that experience. I see my children once in a while, and they're constantly involved with their kids, even the married ones. And of course, I'm constantly involved with them, but they're not so constantly involved with me. So, Oma Ra'isi L'Rabos Es Haben L'Haitzi Es Ha'av. So, what theoretical position could you take where you would say that a brother precedes a father? Okay? Let's try that out for size. Let's try out that siblings. Genetically, it's 50-50. Genetically, you share 50% of your genes with your father, and you share 50% of your genes with your sibling. But that's not so. Biology doesn't determine it. But let's try halacha. Meraba es ani es haben. I could say the son is closer, meaning the brother. Shechen kum, that the brother-father relationship is primary. Sheben kum tachas aviv liyada. There were circumstances where a family would take in a minor girl. The father would sell her to them, or he'd give her to them. And when she reaches age 12, the father is the head of the house, the male head of the house is supposed to marry her. If the father declines to marry her, the son can marry her, but the father's brother cannot marry her. So we see that the father-son relationship is stronger than the sibling relationship. Similarly, if you have ancestral property, we've learned this a few times, and you're makdish it, you can, before the end of the next Yovel, redeem it for 50 gold sloyim per se. If you die after you've donated the money to Hektish, your son can go through the redemption process and reclaim the land for the family, but your sibling, the man who died's brother, cannot. So that's the second example, Isteyachuza. Okay? So we now have two cases where clearly the Torah regards the father-son relationship as more important than the brother-brother relationship. So the Gemara says, Adarabba, I can knock that out by challenging it. Meraba anies ha'ach. I can tell you Torah case where the brother is more important than any other relative. Okay, shechen im tachas achiv yibum. If that young man who died without any children, but he was married, we're adding a new condition, and he dies, his living brother can take the wife and his property. So here's a case, and the father can't do that. So here's a case where the brother, the Torah says, is the closest living relative. So the Gemara says, Mamanavshach, Klum yesh yibam ela b'makom she'ein bein. Yibam is only performed if there's no child, no male child on the by the
Any child.
by the dead dude, and it doesn't have to be from the wife that had no kids. If the guy was married 12 times and he had has a 40-year-old kid, that's good enough. There's no yibum involved. Ha, b'makom sheyesh ben ein yibum. If there's any child from any wife, there's no case of yibum. So the Gemara says, like a technical answer, you're upslugging me because of a pircha, but we're talking theory. So the pircha doesn't necessarily hold. Taima de ika hai pircha. You're telling me that the reality is that in most cases he's got a son from some other wife and there's no yibum. So what? Halav hachi. That's just a technicality. Were it not for that pircha, hava mina ach adif. The yibum ceremony is so unusual and so not fitting the normal pattern of things. And the Torah nonetheless makes it an obligation. That's clear proof that the brother relationship is much stronger than any other conceivable relationship, unintended. Okay? Hava amina es ha'adif, that the brother is the most important relationship. So tipuk le. So now you can knock that off, turn the page. The hacha tarte v'hacha chada. So okay, you've got the yibum relationship, and it's immensely powerful. That's one. Opposite that, you've got the inheritance of land. You can redeem it from the temple, and you have the other case. So you have 2-1. So therefore, from a halachic perspective, the majority outweighs the minority, and we see that the father-son relationship is stronger than a sibling relationship. And tune in tomorrow and we'll continue. Everybody have a meaningful and easy fast, daven well. And I publicly ask mechila of all of you if I've said or done anything to offend you. And given my personality, I'm sure I have. So I ask mechila. I just did. You weren't listening.
I'll let you know.
Well, don't wait too long because I'm not going to be here on Sunday. All right. Sunday, Bobby's going to run a tape. And Monday, if Shimon is back, he'll be on. If not, he'll be on Tuesday.
Bill,
Yeah.
we had to
What?
take when I came
Tomorrow at 10 after 3, in whatever room has a light on.
Up here. Everyone who fasts have an easy fast.
Don't forget the long run.
Put your
Oh, yeah, that's an important point. You cannot, this is mamash din. You cannot light a match to light a Havdalah candle tomorrow night.
But you can't
You-
make Shabbos. That's only during the week.
No,
On
on Shabbos, you have to have a pre-existing light. That's what you use the yard side light to light the Havdalah light.
right.
That's only during the week, but Yom Kippur come down on Shabbos. It's like a regular Shabbos and make the 3 brachos. Right.
Okay. I thought that if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. I
Where?
mean, once, a long time ago, my wife told me, oh, it's not true. Every day I'm wrong. Whenever my wife says anything, I'm wrong.
Miriam deserves a congressional medal of honor for putting up with you. Mordecai, safe trip.
Thank you.
Why, you're not gonna see him tomorrow?
What do you got? What's for you over?
I'm davening at Torah or.
I got one here, over here.
Oh, I wouldn't daven in that room.
I got one in the back row.
I don't care where you daven. There's no
I
mechitza.
have blinders in my
You,
right
but
eye.
I hear that. You're blind in the right eye, so you can't look over. I see.
That's a chillah. That's a real chillah. You get the new rabbi, maybe you can paint the darn.
I don't know. So you don't
Can you
have
get by?
to, like you have those.
I'm worried about-
From that, right,
I
because
don't
you
know what's
have-
going on with this.
because when
What?
you
Rabbi,
you're
but-
saying
Yeah,
two
I'm
things.
afraid
One,
You're
that this
Even
right
if
was.
you give it
up
over
now
to
it's
everybody.
worthless,
Seem to
okay.
tell,
And I
Say
might
something
go.
on How many two rabbis coming in on one year?
I might go.
Good rabbi.
Good rabbi.
Good rabbi. Heard me for that?
Told
They would-
other Mauritians how to
He's
make
gonna
a
keep
pie.
going on.
So,
Might
doing
be
that.
better.
And
Okay.
Shabbos, if
That-
the Shabbos Yom Kippur, the regular
I'm
Shabbos,
happy.
the same thing.
Me too.
It was, they were made on Friday afternoon around 4 o'clock.
Yes.
That's a question. Ruben.
And they managed to have 2 kids before Lick mentioned. Or plus the twin, no, 4.
He's the one, people suppose we had 2 girls.
Oh, all right, whatever. Yeah, but having, yeah, have a family. Yeah, that's, well, you know, and they didn't look like us. They were covered with fingernails. They were covered with Keaton.
Even today, there's an artist that had with,
It's turning to the right.
It's changing. I'm not saying
famous
it's.
Italian,
Right finger.
Michelangelo.
Or softball
Yeah.
to the left. You want to go on that's well.
Pictures
Remember
of
Bell?
Harvard. He had them with belly buttons.
Yeah, but that's wrong.
No,
Well, no, maybe God made them with belly buttons because that would be the future. But he didn't think, well, or maybe Mrs. God had a placenta.
Hi,
All right.
Essie and, Marty, thank you for being cookie man.
Yes. You should know, I went to resupply yesterday, they had nothing.
Really?
Well, because of the hurricane, people bought out the stores. More than half the gas stations in Florida have no gas.
Yeah, people are topping off,
Yeah.
where you going, nowhere.
Well, but you might, I mean, I went and topped off. It was necessary.
So where were you gonna go?
I'm gonna leave Sunday, and what if there was a blackout and I couldn't get gas?
There's enough cookies for Sunday, okay, well, if it's not enough gas, not enough cookies.
Yeah, either show.
And you're not eating chillin', so there won't be any
We did-
gas.
People just did the same thing. Yeah.
I'll know.
Well,
I'll tell you this someday.
Mr. Kipperman.
So we gotta do the,
Doctor's orders to go fast.
Where did you get the doctor?
Hi, you just retired too. And my ticker. I have a bad ticker.
Dos tapadas.
I'll leave it
no,
here.
yeah, the kids in school, they come home, they remind you that.
Yeah, they come on with the.
Who left whose phone is this? Bob, is that yours?
Phone. Yeah, I'm the phony and
Your phony?
I'm the phone.
The bomb's gonna be here for Yanchuk, or you're going up north?
We're not gonna be here for Shavuos, for Sukkot,
Oh.
Neither we.
not Shavuos either.